Welcome to Live Abroad Now. We're excited to welcome back Jason and Michelle with expatsecuador.com.
Yes, they joined us in a previous video to tell us all about the school system in Ecuador. I'll put a link to that video in the description in case you missed it. This time, though, they're back to tell us all about raising kids in Ecuador.
Hi, I'm Jason. I am an Australian and I currently live in Ecuador. I've been here for quite a few years, a long-term digital nomad that basically fell in love with Ecuador and has never left. And I met Michelle a few years ago, and at the moment we're currently holidaying in Ayompe, but we normally live in Cuenca. So Michelle, your background?
My name is Michelle. I'm from Ecuador, from Quito, the capital. I met Jason actually there, and we moved to Cuenca, and we are a blended family. I have 2 kids, and I work in the tourism industry for like 15 years, so I have a knowledge about Ecuador, and that's why we kind of like traveling and getting to know each other through that.
So some of the, I guess, challenges of bringing kids to Ecuador or raising kids in Ecuador, something that I've struggled a little bit to get used to is just some of the cultural norms. So as an example, like kids here, they're adored by everybody, by the families, and so everyone just like flocks to kids, which is nice, but it's just not something that I'm used to necessarily. But the other cultural difference for me isn't so much that the kids are loved, but how accepted they are everywhere that you go. So breastfeeding is a really good one to look at. Here, like breastfeeding is nothing. It's just what people do. It's part of human evolution, and it's great. It's natural, and so no one's going to scold you. You're much more likely to have.
On the contrary,
exactly.
yes.
You're much more likely to have someone come over to you and give you some pointers about breastfeeding, rather than them sort of looking at you in any sort of negative light.
Yes, I feel like breastfeeding is something that I experienced both things. Like with my first kid, I had people would say like, no, cover it up in public areas or something, but there was a lot of people who could actually come and say like, oh, is he breastfeeding well, and really into that. With Sarah was more freedom for me. Like I really didn't care about that. I was just so it felt so good to be free to breastfeed my kid without anybody. Like I've heard that there's a lot of people from other countries that they are shocked by that, because it's something that it can actually get some problems in other countries, but here is really nice and open. That
The other challenge that we've personally faced is dealing with I guess when you have a family unit that isn't or doesn't necessarily contain both biological parents. That opens up a whole other range of issues, but the most important one for us on a practical level is really we need permission to go outside of Ecuador with the kids. Mm-hmm. So both biological parents need to provide that permission, and so that is a real sticking point for us. Like as an example, I can't take the kids, or we can't go on a family vacation to Australia
without the permission of the
exactly.
of that.
It's a big limitation on us, and that's probably the main one, not just from us, but other expats that I've spoken to as well.
So the machismo is another cultural difference that you can find here. There's still a lot of difference between women's and male roles, and even when you have kids, the people even don't notice that. They say like, oh, don't wear pink because pink is for girls, or go help in the kitchen because that's what girls do.
Oh, in our example, we have Sebastian, and he's doing aerial yoga, and aerial yoga isn't something that's traditionally done by males here. And so, like as an example, we at the Christmas celebration, they pointed out that we were breaking the stereotypes here simply because we had a boy doing an activity that wasn't necessarily a very macho activity.
So yeah, it's changing, but you can still feel in the background of the culture in Ecuador that there's still machismo.
And especially around, let's say, getting divorced and having, let's say, or being a single parent, there is still a fair amount of, I guess, negative stigma attached to that. And like we experienced that on a family level as well. Like not super overtly, but it's definitely there. And it is persistent and something that you just need to be kind of prepared for in a way. People don't necessarily think that or know that they're doing anything negative to you, but it is in the background.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different activities for kids to enjoy in Ecuador. Probably the three most common that you'll find: soccer, obviously,
Number one.
equivolley, which is kind of like a volleyball derivative, but it's fun, and basketball. That's also quite popular. But then there's a bunch of other sort of more bespoke activities that are very popular, and we have the kids enrolled in a couple at the moment.
Yeah, we have the kids and we're taking horseback riding lessons, and the kids are taking aerials, acrobacies, and we think that in Cuenca that was something that was more open for us to have than in Quito, because Quito, maybe because it's too big, the places are not too far away or way much more expensive. But in Cuenca we had this, even mountain biking, motocross, what is the other one that we were
Swimming
interested in?
is popular.
Yeah.
Fencing is something we're considering
Yeah,
right now.
fencing too. My kid told like he wants to do that.
So you may not find huge class sizes here, but
No.
if there's an activity that you really like, you're probably going to be able to find something similar, as long as it's not an exclusive sport. Like as an example, I'm an Australian. I love Australian rules football. We're definitely not going to
No.
find that here. But maybe rugby if we're lucky. But as an American, baseball was popular quite a few years ago, especially in Guayaquil. But now it's not so popular, so you kind of be limited to more your basketball, I think, as an American.
Thank you so much, Jason and Michelle, for sharing your insight and experiences with us.
Yes, and they also have a detailed blog post over on their website, expatsecuador.com. I'll put a link to that in the description.
If you found this video helpful, leave us a like, please.
Yes, and also hit the subscribe button because we have another video coming out about private schools in Manta.